to another episode of What's in the Dungeon podcast.
Us.
I am your co-host, co-chair, co-captain on this voyage. Coachello. I don't know what a cello has to do with anything.
Coachello.
One cello, two cello, co-cello. I am John. Murph is coming to us live from a 1970s British VHS tape in a cave.
Yep, I've been transported here magically.
His skin is so smooth and pearly white, it's insane. Whereas mine, you can see every single pockmarked scar on it. So we're contrasting today. This is our podcast where we discuss dungeons and sometimes dragons and sometimes neither.
Yeah, there might be a dragon there.
Sometimes neither. Sometimes we talk about other things. Last week our topic was we talked about HeroScape, the titular board game that's coming back at some point. I am very excited about that. This week we'll be talking to you about some other things. We'll figure that out at some point, I hope, in the course of this episode. Starting off though, Murph, how are you doing?
Hey, it's good to see you after a week.
Yes.
It's so weird to me that at one point we went what was it, a week and a half or 2 weeks without an episode?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, we saw each other at a point of that for just like a game night, but it's so weird that like how fast time goes by sometimes. Like,
it really
feels like yesterday that we did our last episode, and it's already time to do another one.
I think when you have weekly events that tether your time, especially when it's not work related, your week goes by quick. Because like yesterday was supposed to be D&D, and I didn't realize it again, and so I had to text them like 2 hours before. I was like, "Hey, I have strep throat. I can't talk. I can't swallow. I'm at the doctor." They were like, "Oh no, it's fine." But I was like, "Jesus Christ, I feel like I was just here doing D&D yesterday." It's like, no, it was a whole week ago. Blah 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 blah. So I think that when you have these goalposts in a week that you get to, where it's like you do something and you do something, and especially if you're into it, it'll quickly speed the week by. Because it's like the opposite for work for me. It's like every day at work feels like the same drudging nonsense.
So that's the other part about it is now that I'm employed, I have something filling my day up. So by the time I get home, it's like rush through whatever simple pleasures I'm doing, and then it's kind of like back to work.
Yeah.
So the week has flown by.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about lots of nerd shit. It was Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes it's not Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes it's other things. The upcoming soon, the new Game of Thrones actually might already be out. Is it out?
What is it? Which one is this?
House of the Dragon
or the House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon. I think is already out.
Khaleesi's family legacy.
Yes, the Targaryens are in that one.
Name?
Her name is Khaleesi.
Khaleesi, that's what it.
Yes.
I actually went to boot camp with someone named Khaleesi, so I think that's where my confusion's coming from. I got way into Game of Thrones in terms of like watching it way late. Like I watched maybe like a total of 6 episodes of the entire series in the history of it running. And
I got to like the 4th season, I think. I don't remember. It was a while ago because HBO One I didn't have for a while because it's expensive and there wasn't anything good on it at the time. So I was using my friends and I watched like I think up to season 4. I think the last thing I remember was the Flame Army, like the cult army with Stannis gets beaten or something. I don't know. And then evidently, like after that, it kind of fell off. Like especially the last season, everyone was like, "Oh my God, there's a Starbucks cup in one of the shots."
Yeah, okay, but like I don't judge a show by a bad fade out. Like especially since they fixed it in the DVD, like they just like paint it out. But like my thing is just like the last 2 episodes are so dark that you can't see jack shit. So it's like, what? Like,
yeah,
kind of like increase the brightness just a bit for some reason. Like, all of this big back and forth between Jon Snow and the White Walking King guy, and
Christopher Walken.
Arya fucking Stark kills him, and I'm like, why?
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Thank you for spoiling it. I appreciate it.
Well, okay, my bad.
I was never going to watch it.
It's just like, there's a lot of, like, the only thing that I saw out of the finale, right, that made any sense and had a satisfying closure to it was the Hound. The Hound's closure, his character arc ending, was the best part because it felt like you actually had like a beginning, middle, and end to that story instead of just like beginning, middle.
Yeah,
we didn't know what to do now, so here's a.
I enjoyed I enjoyed the Hound. I enjoyed not Stannis, but his like general, the guy who's like bald with the gray beard, who kind of hangs out with him for a while and then goes and does his own thing. I can't remember his name. He's really cool because he's like realistic and he's not like good or bad. He's more like just trying to figure his shit out. Jon Snow felt like a savior, like a Christ complex type person, because like he couldn't die, and it felt like
he came back to life. That was fun.
It felt like he was really just meant to be the series, like they had gone through the entire series with no protagonist. Like everyone was dying, everyone was fighting, everyone was winning, everyone was losing. Everyone was like, the shifting sands were, leaving no one alive or no one unhurt. Like a
historical retelling instead of the story of a guy.
Yeah, and then at some point, Jon Snow turns into Jesus, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this is just the Jon Snow story, I guess.
Well, because towards the end they really made it seem like he was going to be the one that like they championed, and he becomes like the chosen one, and he does all this shit. But then like at the end they're just like, never mind.
Yeah, I can't get behind that. I guess like I don't know. I know the last season they didn't have a book to go off of, so it was kind of awkward too. So they just probably they might never. Who knows?
Thanks, George R.
But they do have the new series coming out, House of the Dragon, and that seems kind of fun.
And then Snow, the fucking story of Jon Snow and his bullshit. I don't know, man. There's just like a lot to be desired with that last season, and again, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how they could have changed it. Like I have opinions, but nothing matters.
And I think that the only thing I would really want to watch the House of the Dragon for is that it's got Matt Smith in it, who was a Doctor Who, which is cool. But other than that, he was in Morbius too.
He needs a win.
He said the iconic line, "It's Morbin time," and then he morbed all over them.
In a subway. Subway, eat fresh.
Yeah, he's been in a few things. I like him. Like I liked him as Doctor Who. He just doesn't seem to be getting good roles lately. I feel like he's a good actor, but I don't know.
Smith
we'll see.
Was in Terminator Genesis, which is weird.
Yeah.
He was in a movie. Do you know who Eva Green is?
No, I do not.
Okay. I'm a James Bond fan. If you are also a fan of those movies, she was Vesper in the Daniel Craig's first outing as Bond, Casino Royale.
Okay.
The love interest, her. She's in Penny Dreadful. She's in.
Oh yeah. I love Penny Dreadful.
Yeah. She's also in the second 300 spin-off movie, the one about the Persians and their navy.
Okay. That one was called 600.
Or the Greek Navy. It's the Greek Navy. I can't remember what it's called actually. And then the third one had Tom Hardy in it for some fucking reason. But either way, it's Eva Green. Eva Green is in a movie. I don't know why I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay. We were talking about Matt Smith. Then you said Terminator. Something.
He was in a movie with her, and it's the weirdest premise of a movie I've ever heard of, and it's kind of terrifying. Matt Smith is her husband, and they are both researchers in something, not incredible geniuses, but just like they are a couple that live like in Maine or something, and they have a close relationship with his mother. So it's like them and then her mother-in-law, and they're happy. Well, he gets diagnosed with like this terrible illness, and he starts dying, and she's panicking, and he's like, look, this is just how it is. Like, we should try for a baby. And then, like, maybe that, like, that'll be a piece of me that lives on, and then you can be with the child, and then, my mother can help. And, like, it's supposed to be this beautiful moment. But he ends up dying before she becomes pregnant. So she decides that the best of both worlds is to clone him and then impregnate herself with the, like, clone embryo.
Yeah, because that's a thing you can do.
And then she gives birth to her husband and then raises him. And instead of being like, oh, you're the closest thing to a child we could have created.
I'm sure it becomes some type of weird psychologically traumatizing thing.
Fuck it, yeah. She, like, as he gets older, she starts, like, falling in love with him because it's literally a perfect clone of him. And then they start sleeping together, and it's, I was like, whoa. And then the mother-in-law's like, what the fuck? I thought this was just a baby. That's my son. What did you do? So she kills her mom, and, like, it gets, I don't know, man. And the only reason I even knew it was like, oh, Eva Green. Oh, the Doctor Who guy.
Oh, it's the Doctor Who guy.
What the fuck?
I need to get a refund for the last 10 hours of my life, so I forget everything. But yeah, so there's that. That's out. That's like a thing. I don't know. I might watch it. I don't really know.
He does look
enough.
really dumb in it, though. He has that weird...
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it just didn't seem to mesh well with his whole face deal.
Like, it looks like his face is like made out of marble, and then they just kind of put like some kelp on his head.
I was not a fan.
It just looks weird. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but I will say, in the world of D&D news, I did get my copy of the Spelljammer adventure that just came out.
Is that the thing that Amazon alerted you to, or is that not out yet? Because I remember you mentioning that you got the pre-order.
Yeah, that was the one I pre-ordered. It just shipped. It came in yesterday or last night.
Is that the thing I'm looking at on Twitter here? The Spelljams Dungeons and Dragons.
What are you looking at?
No, that's different. This is music. Somebody made on Twitter on our What's in the Dungeon podcast Twitter page. There's a thing called Kill Rock Stars that we retweeted. Apparently, no, Dungeons and Dragons retweeted, and it's music inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. And it's called Spelljams, and apparently there's a listening party being held by the official Dungeons and Dragons something.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know. The actual Spelljammer they've got a 3-book set with a divider too. It's a setting book, a monster compendium, and an adventure book, and it's all set in the Spelljammer setting, which is like spacefaring. So like there's all these different planets and universes that you travel around to on these like Spelljammer ships, which basically create these pockets of air and actual gravity so that you can fly around and shoot. It's kind of like space travel, like a sci-fi deal, but it's all fantasy. You've got like space elves. You've got I got a Discord alert. I don't know what that was.
Being famous.
Evidently. But you've got like different spacefaring races in addition to the normal ones. You have rules for ship travel, like ship-to-ship combat too. They've got like a list of like 20 spaceships that you can fly around in. It's pretty cool. And there's like...
Is this similar to the thing that your Mind Flayer, or I'm sorry, your Undead Lich thing? Yeah,
that's a Nautiloid is a type of spelljamming ship in this universe that kind of...
But isn't it like alive? It's like
it's more sentient, I guess, in a way.
It's like they're inside of a sentient creature that they use to transport themselves from one place to another. Yes, and they kind of link with it as like a hive mind type deal. But there's a lot of different ship. Like one of them is it's a living ship, and it's got a full grown tree ant in the hold on, I'm getting Discord notifications for some reason, so I'm gonna pop this out real quick. Very popular.
Pop it out.
I'm trying to think, what is that thing's called? They have bulls, and I don't remember what they're called. In Elder Scrolls, they have the giant, like, not crustacean, the fucking, it looks like a cicada that they ride in, Netch bulls.
I'm not sure.
They're in Soul Steam and stuff like that, but it's just like, that's what it reminds me of, because it's a thing that used for travel, like as like a traveling thing. Like they literally get inside of its hollow shell, and then they put like a canopy over the top of it, and then they drive it. I'm
nice.
sure it was called a netch. But yeah, it's the same kind of concept because it's a living creature, but it's symbiotic to the people riding it because they take care of it and stuff. So
yeah, but it's a cool setting. It seems pretty interesting. Let me make this full screen. There we go. But it comes with like a list of all the different monsters that live in space and that you can fight, and then it's also got like a leveled adventure from 5 to 8 that you can go on. It's called the Light of Zarixis. I don't know. It seems cool. But that came in today. It's like a new setting that they're doing, which is cool because the Spelljammer universe has always been like a thing, but it's not really got a good treatment when it comes to D&D. It's kind of just like been a thing that existed, but no one really did well with because it's different. It's not your typical fantasy Middle Earth nonsense. It's more of a sci-fi take on D&D, which is kind of cool.
But still using like the high fantasy tropes.
Yeah, you've still got all the same mechanics basically, but it seems really cool. As far as like in terms of like the difference that you can have, like the book that came out a short time ago, the Tales from the Radiant Citadel, is sort of like that too, where it's set in space, but there's not like space travel or anything. It's just like it's not set in space. It's set in the the astral plane, which is pretty cool. So it has
Please
different
see a
mechanics.
previous episode
Yeah,
where
if
we
you want to
talked about
learn
all
more about the astral and the ethereal and the negative and all the different types of planes, we have like an hour-long spat on one of our earlier episodes about it, and it's
probably
not
the most educational episode that we had.
really, because we were going into it. I was like posting graphs and cosmology charts, like it was crazy.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. But so this one is more set in like actual sci-fi fantasy where you can travel around to different planets. You can take on passengers. There's like whole mechanics for ship fighting, which is cool because you've got like different positions you have to hold. You've got different attacks you can have, different abilities you can use. And I'm sure that you can translate those more into other types of campaigns. Like you don't necessarily have to use it for D&D. Maybe you use it for a space campaign where it's like modern space. It seems pretty cool. I haven't gone through all of it just yet, but there's like there's I think 4 or 5 new races. There's the astral elves, which are just elves that have been born in space. There's plasmoids, which are like these cellular entities that can change shape. There's autognomes, which are little robots that gnomes built and then somehow got separated from their master and gained some form of sentience. There's the GIF, which are hippo people that travel space. They're like traders and mercenaries.
I saw something about that today, actually, on not our Twitter. It was like somebody was doing artwork on like Reddit or something of different various hippo people and
that's a GIF,
like rangers and stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And then the last one is the Thrykean, which are like the insect chitinous folk. They look like especially in space. You got to have insect people in space because they don't need to breathe, I guess.
It just immediately reminds me of Ender's Game, and then I'm just like, okay.
Oh, true. Oh, and then there's another one. The 5th one is they're like a primate race. They look sort of apish, but I cannot remember their name for the life of me. But they're there.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting. I like the concept of being able to add new races because that means in homebrew games you can kind of be like, I have created a new thing that you can be.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Lore-wise, this happens all the time.
Yeah, and I think that it'll be helpful as far as like expanding people's tastes because it kind of gets dry after your 6th campaign in the Forgotten Realms. It's like, okay, great, we're gonna go kill Vecna again. That's the 8th time
again. Thanks, the Upside Down.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. So I was thinking, and I was wondering. Today is less of a topic and more so just like a retelling of a tale.
A tale as old as time.
Beauty in this guy who bakes with yeast. No, what is look? Yeast rolls are good. Don't come at me.
I'm not disagreeing.
What is, in your opinion, out of all the games you've ever played, like the worst campaign that you've ever DM'd for, and why did it become a problem?
Why do you have to ask
why did it start good and then fuck up, or was it just fucked from the beginning? Like, and then if you could go back and fix it, how would you fix it?
Let's see. I gotta sift through the campaigns in my brain.
Campaigns in my brain.
I think it would have to be. Geez. There's a yeah, okay. That's actually an easy. I had to remember. It's funny because I think my best campaign I ever did was from a book, and the worst campaign I've ever done is also from a book. So there's a book called, I think I have it. It might be at my friend's house. Where is it? It's called Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's a
so it's like a sea shanty.
Yeah, that was kind of what it was actually. But it was it's rhyme like RIME, like frost. So it's not so much, but there was rhymes about it. So it was a book that came out a couple years ago in the Baldur's Gate sort of vein. So Baldur's Gate is in the Forgotten Realms setting, but they had like a few things specific to the Baldur's Gate area. So like Descent into Avernus takes place in Baldur's Gate. And then you've got also this one where it's like near Baldur's Gate, like that's one of the closest towns. But this one takes place in an area called Icewind Dale, which is like the northernmost tip of the Forgotten Realms, and there's all these like different strung together settlements. It's called 10 towns because there's literally 10 towns, and the book kind of goes through a like it's cold, but like the last few decades have been unseasonably cold, like to the point where there's no relief. Like usually we get a storm of snow and then seasons would pass and you get a thaw and then snow and then thaw and then snow. But for the last while, they hadn't had any relief. And so people think that they're cursed or there's magic or blah, 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 blah. So your adventurers, for various reasons, come to the 10 towns and travel through and try to figure out what's going on. It turns out there's like a demigod called Ariel, who's like an owlkin who's cursed the land with her magic and says that, there can't be anything but snow for blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of different storylines, though. So you've got Ariel as the main bad. She's like literally on the front cover. But then you've also got some Duragar in the hills or in the mountain fortress that are like trying to create some type of dragon to destroy everything. You've got all the different politics of the 10 towns because none of them are actually like over the other. They form like a council and they have to vote on stuff. So everyone's always trying to like poke holes in the other one. There's actually there's a prison etched into the side of one of the mountains, and there's like a whole storyline. Like they keep all the people of Forgotten Realms send all their horrible, like, evil mages or horrible rogue, like all their top security clearance prisoners to this prison because it's literally super far away. You can't get to it. It's in the side of a mountain, top security clearance shit. So there's that. There's also a bunch of other stuff going on. Like every town has an issue, like has a problem. So like you can go through and they've got a very specific way of handling it. So you go from town to town, but depending on where you start, your next town might be different and you might decide to go to a different place, and each one has a different thing going on. So it's a little bit complicated to start off with because you have not one starting area, you have potentially 10. And then you have a need to go to all these different towns. Like everyone has a hook, everyone has a few quests in it, everyone has a story. So getting them to decide on the next town is difficult in and of itself. And then you're also trying to weave these different stories at the same time so that they don't just focus on the 10 towns. They also focus on, oh my God, there's rumors in the north of the Duragar building a giant monstrosity of a dragon out of metal and magic. Or, in the deep dark, there's dark elves. They're coming. They're trying to fight. Oh, you know what? I messed up. This is not my worst campaign. I had a worse campaign than this, and I just thought about it because it was so short. It only lasted like a month, maybe. So I'll finish off with this. It was bad because I couldn't string together all the different story arcs together to make them interested, and it kind of just fell off. Like we stopped after about 6 months or so, and it was just kind of like, it was whatever. But the worst campaign I did was the Dungeons of the Mad Mage, which is a Waterdeep setting. And the reason it was so bad, we did the so there's 2 books for Waterdeep. There's the actual Waterdeep campaign that's like levels 1 through 5 that introduces you to Waterdeep, the town. It's like a big bustling town. It's like comparable to Neverwinter or Baldur's Gate on that same scale. But I think after that, there's another book called Dungeons of the Mad Mage, which takes place in a subterranean labyrinth of dungeons underneath Waterdeep. So you don't really do anything in Waterdeep, but it's there. It's like underneath. There's a lot of levels. There might be 20-something. I wanted to say 13, but I think that's just my brain. I think it's 20-something levels. And each level comes with a sheet map and a theme, a boss, a few quests, and treasure. And there's all these levels. And it is so difficult. It was difficult for me at the time. It probably still would be difficult to narrate that because I wasn't like super into making maps. So all I had was the little 9x11 sheet map that they gave me with the little blocks that are about that big for movement tiles.
Right.
And it was like trying to get them interested in moving forward and describing the same trap corridor over and over. Like it got very bland. It got very boring. I don't think we made it past like the second or third floor because I could not create an interest in this campaign. Like it was just like bad.
There was nothing that you could say outside of I infinitely just dropped gold and booze on you to make them be like, yes, this campaign is so fulfilling.
Yeah, and it was like it was just difficult for me. I don't know why, because like the whole overarching theme of it was really good. Like the Mad Mage of the dungeon has like created all these things to weed out people seeking his treasure. He's got like every single floor he's put like a rival as the boss, like someone who's attempted to murder him or someone he thinks might try to hurt him, or there's like he's in control completely. The like second to last floor is an academy where his top 4 pupils train and like bring apprentices to train and bring apprentices to learn the skills. So it's like a whole thriving ecosystem. So it's a really cool concept because in the background you've got Hallister Blackcloak like running back and forth between the floors because he can teleport. He controls these key gates that only certain people can go through depending on what keystones they have. So he's always like in and out. He's always a presence like in the back of everyone's mind. Like he's really sinister, but you're not sure what his motives are, blah, 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 blah. And he's tied to the mountain. Like he can't leave, he can't do anything. And in fact, when you kill him, he'll just respawn because he's tied his aura to this dungeon. And if certain things aren't met, he'll just literally respawn in 30 days at the floor of his choosing, which is kind of cool. But it was just very plain in how I delivered the story, so it was very difficult for me to get interest out of it. Like it was just like, oh my god, there's only so many times I can describe the same stone corridor with what was it? There was one word that I kept using over and over because like the book gives you descriptions of the room. They kept saying this one word and they made fun of me for saying it so often. It was a bas relief, which is like BAS-RELIEF, a bas relief, which is like it's like a depiction of something on a wall that's like painted and stuff. But they had like every room had a bas relief, and I like would describe it and use that word, and so they started making fun of me because I would always say it. I was like, I can't help it. That's what it says.
Damn you, reliefs.
Yeah, so I was like. I was really struggling. So I think about like halfway through the second floor, maybe I was like, you know what? I'm not having fun with this. Are y'all? And they're like, no, not really. I was like, okay, well, we can do something different. Somebody else can DM, or we can do a different campaign, or I can come up with something because this is just not fun. And it wasn't like the source material wasn't fun because, like I said, reading the book, it was super interesting. Like I really enjoyed reading the book because it was like, this is cool. This floor has this theme. This floor has this boss. This is the storyline going on behind the scenes. But I just, for whatever reason, I could not get 20-something levels of dungeons to come to life in a way that would interest them. And I think that it was more on me than the material, but at the same time, it was just a different type of material than I was used to working with, where it wasn't like an open-ended journey. It wasn't like, okay, there's a bunch of places we can go to, there's a bunch of things we can do. It was literally go through this dungeon level, get to the next one, go through this and they're huge. Like they're expansive dungeon levels. Like they have like probably 10 pages dedicated to each floor, with different enemies, different traps, different themes, and it's just like it was dense and I made it boring.
So let me ask this. Do you think that's something that if you did it again now it would be better, or do you think that's still just not your pocket? Or?
Maybe, I don't know. I would definitely go about it a different way because it. And again, this was coming off the heels of the first book, which was I can't remember the name of it. Oh, Dragon Heist was the first book in Waterdeep. Dragon Heist, which was a really cool sort of quick adventure where the adventures get set up. There's 5 chapters one for each level. They do a specific task. There's a significant amount of outcomes. They have to figure out certain puzzles. It was very not linear, more open-ended, but it was very. Like we had objectives to accomplish. Like there was things to do. We got them set up with their own tavern that they could run. We got them set up with like different storylines they could follow with the different crime bosses in the area. But then immediately we transitioned into Dungeon Slog, which was like, oh my god, this was way too dense. And it was not what I was expecting. So I might be able to do it now and do a little bit better, but I'm not super interested in DMing something like that because I don't think. One, I'm trying to stay away from source books right now because they're not. I want to do my own thing. Like I want to create my own stories and do my own thing right now because that's just where I'm at. The only thing I might do is like I really would like to do another Curse of Strahd run because that's always like that's got to be my favorite campaign ever is Curse of Strahd, and that was probably the best campaign I ever did. is a written campaign from D&D, but it was, I think, probably one of the best ones I did, because it was fun playing as Strahd, because Strahd also is like Hallister, where he's always present because he's in his own domain of dread, where he has basically omnipotence and omniscience, so he can pop up at the last second and be like, whoa, look over here, I'm gonna kill you, oh, now I'm gone. So it was cool playing him. It was cool laying down like the mysteries for them to follow that weren't super hard. They have a very large amount of diverse NPCs already created, so that one was good. But for whatever reason, Dungeons of the Mad Mage, I'm just not a super. I think if I played it, it would be fun. Like, I wouldn't mind playing a character with a DM doing Dungeons of the Mad Mage because I know how fun it could be. But for whatever reason, it's not of interest to me to try and open that again and figure out what the fuck I'm doing. It was a lot, and it also just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's interesting to consider, especially in the idea of like, well, I guess the other part of it is like, do you think part of the reason that you think that you probably didn't handle that one as well as you would preferred was like an inexperience in DMing, or were you fairly veteran at this point?
No, I was definitely inexperienced. I was definitely not aware of my limits, and I was definitely bit off more than I could chew. I was like, oh, I can do this. This is fine. I actually thought it would be easier because it like laid everything out. Like every room was there. I didn't have to deal with it. But there was only so many times I could describe the same corridor, and it was getting old really quick.
Using the same word as a boss relief.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that the players definitely weren't having fun, because it was like we'd get to combat and it would be interesting, but the combat was just breaking up the mundanity of trekking through a stone corridor.
You were essentially describing like a mirror maze of the exact same thing.
So it was like, and they do a good job of like having diversity in the dungeon. I just wasn't doing a really good job of bringing it to a spot where everyone could view it.
Okay, well, that makes sense. That sounds like an interesting concept for like a we're looking for here, like a maze that is done in an ancient relic, like a magic item puzzle where you like, oh no, you and your adventurous friends have been, bartered with for, you do a quest for someone and they're like, thank God, here's our family heirloom, like you can take it off my hands, it's been maybe you can do something, and then they mess with it, and now they're inside of a dungeon that's like 8 levels deep, and it's like, hi, welcome, you fell into the trap of eternal suffering, like now you have to fight your way out, good luck.
Yeah, and that would be something that I could create. Like, I think I would have more fun with that. I just don't think that just because I don't know. I like writing things and I like doing my own thing, and I feel like whenever I have a campaign book, I take the easy way out and don't put as much work into it because it's mostly there. But when I take the time to write out every single thing about my campaign, it becomes easier for me to, one, know what the fuck is going on. Because if you're going to do a campaign book, you have to read the whole, you need to read every single page, every single line, so that it's like when you cook, you need to read the whole recipe through. You can't just come to a step and go, oh fuck, I was supposed to do this? Okay. No, you need to read the whole fucking campaign book before you even think about starting it, because you're going to have secrets, you're going to have things that you forget, and having that familiarity with the text is going to be helpful. But I didn't do that. I was just like, I looked ahead a couple pages and was like, okay, I'm good.
Right, so it's the difference between like doing your own interpretation of a story, but like if you're trying to give an authentic, pre-built, like official story, then you need to know what that pre-built story is.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Again, if I make a meatloaf and I follow the first page of the recipe and then I'm like, oh, I know what goes in a meatloaf, well, then it's my interpretation of that meatloaf. I can't call it a Stouffer's meatloaf because I didn't do what the fuck it said.
Exactly.
But like if you were making it and you followed the entire thing, then as long as you did what it said, if it sucks, it's on them. It's not on you.
Yeah, and I think that's fine either way. You just need to learn to accept that that's what's happened. And I think that, like I said, where I'm at right now, I want to write my own shit, and I've already got a few ideas in the old noggin about what's gonna happen in anything else I DM.
See, that's the thing about DMing that scares me the most, is like I couldn't DM right now even if I wanted to, because number one, I don't understand the concepts of the game well enough to even play it, and if you can't play it, how can you be in charge of it? And number two, like I don't know jack shit about lore. So, like, if someone's like, I am this because this and this gives me this, I'd just be like, yeah, sure, okay, cool, that sounds good. I'm moving on.
Yeah, honestly, I started DMing. Like, in my first game, I didn't actually play a character. I started DMing, so that was a little bit rough because I didn't have, like, any knowledge about
Like a
anything.
grounding.
Yeah, so that was a little bit rough. So like my very first campaign was
I was never a passenger in a car. I just started
driving. It was
Like,
great.
My first experience in a vehicle was behind the truck.
Yeah, and it was fun, but I did like the little preset Minds of Fandelver starter kit that they give you that's like really super simple, really easy to follow. And that was fun. I think that I enjoyed that. It wasn't super bad. It was like 5-6 years ago now. Hold on, I think I was 17, so it was a while ago. But then I played a character after that, and I definitely got a better grasp of the rules because like I had an idea, but as a DM you don't have to know about spell slots really. Like I didn't, at least, because my characters followed their own shit. But I had to worry about monsters, I had to worry about traps, I had to worry about story. That's kind of the three things I worried about alone on my first campaign. And then when I played a character, I was like, oh my god, I have like just as much stuff to deal with. I have to worry about spell slots and character voices and backstory and remembering my racial feats and remembering the mechanics of my freaking class, period. So it's definitely like it's just a different workload. It's not more or less playing as a DM or as a character. It's just a different one. Because the DM is playing 47,000 different characters, but he's not putting the time that a single player would put into their one player character. He's putting enough time into it to make them, three-dimensional, to give them some flavor, to give them some motives, and that's really about it. He's not going to write out a 20-page backstory for each single NPC that he or she develops.
Background characters, but like that's essentially it. They're not fully fleshed out individuals. They are really good holograms.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that either way, it was fun, and I enjoyed my first couple of times. There's very few times where I've gone, shit, I really didn't want to do this, and I wasted 3 or 4 hours of my day.
Feels bad. That's ugh.
What?
Yeah, just the thought of like I hate that. I do that shit all the time. But instead of doing it D&D related, mine will be like, oh yeah, it's a Saturday. Like I wake up, it's like I don't know 8, and I'm like, man, I got all this time this morning. And then I look at my phone, and then I look at the time, and it's noon, and I'm like,
yeah, we didn't get out of bed till like 1 o'clock this afternoon, but that's just because we stayed up watching.
What time did you go to bed though?
1 o'clock. We stayed up watching the second season of The Witcher, and I was also on. I still am, but I just started Antibiotics, so it was like.
Is The Witcher second season decent?
Yeah, it's great. I did a little bit of snooping because I wasn't sure. Like I've read some of the books and I've played the game, so I was like, where does this fit? And evidently, it's not like a fit. Like specifically like the timeline, the years they attribute the events to, it takes place before the events of the first Witcher game. So it's following some of the book lore. But it's separate in that they do different things. Like they have their own storyline going on. They have different plot lines happening, and they're not tied down to following the games or following the books, which is interesting because like one key point that I thought was in the books, Mousak, which is he's the druid assigned to Calanthe, the Queen of Sintra, who guides Ciri in her first like steps as a source. In the show, he dies. Like in the 3rd or 4th episode. Like not super spoilery. It's been out for a while. He dies. He gets stabbed, and a Doppler turns into him and tries to steal Ciri by convincing her that she's Mousak. In the books, after the fall of Sintra, Mousak just isn't referenced. Like he's not discussed anymore. But in the game, he has a whole like comeback. He goes to Skellige, which is the like equivalent of Scotland, but it's an island on its own. He goes to Skellige and becomes the head of the druids there, and he changes his name to Ermion. I don't know, but he's got like a whole follow up. Like he didn't die. It turns out he survived the sacking of Sintra, and he has this whole quest line. And you like Geralt is friends with him. It's really cool. So that was like the first time I was like,
is that Witcher 1 or is that Witcher 2?
That's the third. That's the third one where you encounter. Yeah, because Skellige you don't get to until the third Witcher. But like they have a reunion that's cool because it's like blah blah blah. But in the books he's not there because he kind of just falls off the face of the page. But in the show he definitely just died. Like he gets stabbed like right through the heart.
He's straight dead.
Yeah. So that was like the first time I was like, that's odd. I feel like they're doing something different. So I was like Googling stuff and like trying to figure out like where it fits in the timeline.
I know that Henry Cavill in interviews was like, well, first off, I've played the games, and it's like, okay, cool, so he knows that material. But he's like, but I'm a huge fan of the books. Like, he's like, I prefer the books to the game. Not that the games aren't good, but the book's source material is just good writing. And he's
Yeah.
like, and my Geralt, my interpretation of Geralt, is supposed to fit more towards the books than David Cockle's version in the games. And I applaud him for knowing the voice actor that played Geralt in the games. So I guess in that question is like, who do you like between the three Geralts that are represented? Like, do you like the show version?
So
Are you a fan of the game, or do you like the book representation?
I liked the game version, but then I watched The Witcher and I went and downloaded the third one because I got to the very end and never finished it. And this rewatch, it's been a few years, so rewatching The Witcher season 1 and then watching the season 2 for new made me get that itch of like, I want to play it again. It's really fun. I like all the contracts. I like the story, all this other shit. But then I started playing and I was like, that's not how Geralt sounds. That's not his voice. Well, who is this? And then I was like, oh shit. I think I like Henry Cavill better. It's like,
It's like he puts the English spin on it. Like, David Cockle doesn't have an accent, and he doesn't try. He is a deep, gruff American voice coming out of Geralt.
Yeah.
But that's all we knew for so long that it's like synonymous with the character. But Henry
and he does a great
Cavill,
job.
Again, is putting the interpretation because it's a Swedish author?
No, he's Polish.
Polish. Okay, so like the accents and stuff are coming from a medieval, like North European kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Cavill's accent being, of the British Isles would probably fit more to the actual character from the source material.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I discovered that about myself literally like 2 days ago. I was like, oh, this isn't. I was like, oh shit. I guess I do prefer Henry Cavill more than I liked the games version, which is fine. Like I'll still play the game, but it's like I definitely think that they've, because The Witcher 1 starts out. It's don't replay it. The graphics are pretty bad.
I played the Rise of the White Wolf expansion mod that they did that
is it good?
ups the fidelity and okay, so here's the thing. It's still bad.
Yeah.
But it's the best version of bad that you can get. Fun fact for you, BioWare, the makers of
Dragon Age.
of fucking Dragon Age and Mass Effect and fucking Coder,
Yeah.
at least one, they helped make the original Witcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Aurora engine, which was designed specifically for Dragon Age 2, is what The Witcher 1 is built in,
I can see that.
which is why the mechanics feel very similar and some of the graphical capabilities are the same. But it also holds that game back real hard, which is why I'm glad that they moved to their own proprietary engine for 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And technically Cyberpunk, because it's the same
It's
one.
the same. Yeah. CD Projekt
Bro,
Red.
it's just like that game is so difficult to play. It's so point and click. It's like a weird blend between The Witcher 2 and Dragon Age 1.
Yeah. Well, it is an
so
old
odd.
game, and that's like I played it originally years ago, and I wanted to go back and replay it recently, and I was like, nope, fuck no. So I read like the wiki storyline, and I was like, okay, yeah, I remember. After the first few paragraphs, like, okay, I remember what happened. But like the first one, like it starts off with him losing his memory, like he doesn't know what's going on. Someone's stealing the mutagens to create more Witchers, which they touch on in season 2. Like that was when I started to pick up on when the storyline was happening, and I was like, okay, I kind of know where things are going right now. But then in season 2, he still hasn't really, or not season 2, in episode 2, Jesus Christ, the second game, he still hasn't regained his memory. He still doesn't know who Yin is. He just like sees her in his brain, like at Blaviken, like she was there, doesn't really know much else.
He remembers hearing more of the story about what he is assuming is his origin pre-memory loss, which is hanging and all that shit.
And I liked that, like they did, like that was good. 2 is a little bit better. Like I could probably replay 2 if I wanted to get back into figuring out what the fuck happened. But like
I like the Assassins of King. Like that's cool.
Yeah,
Assassin's King. It's a cool premise because I like the intro. I like the fact that like Geralt is meeting people that are important to him in a really odd way. Like the castle guard captain is interrogating him, but like knows who he is.
But he doesn't. So you're introduced to these characters that have played parts in Geralt's life before the events of Witcher 1, but you don't know that, one, because unless you've read the books or watched the series at this point. 2, Geralt doesn't know that. So it felt, one, coming in, I played The Witcher 2 first, so I did not know what the fuck was going on, because I was like, but I think they did well because the point was Geralt had lost his memory, and they didn't give you any pointers. Like they didn't go, okay, Geralt lost his memory, but here's what you should know. No, they just said no. Fuck it. You're not gonna know.
As confused as he is. So when people are talking to you like they know you, and
you're like, who the fuck is this guy? Who's Dandelion?
You're looking at yourself like, why the fuck? Why is my character just?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who this is. My character doesn't know who this is. That's weird writing. And then it all comes to fruition later, and you're like,
and I really like that. I really like that was sort of immersive in their storytelling. And then Witcher 3, of course, he's regained Yen, he's regained Ciri, he's at Kaer Morhen. Like, he knows what the fuck's going on. It felt a lot like the game was huge, The Witcher 3. I liked the DLCs were all
Game
great.
Of the Year 2 years
it was
in a row,
so
which
good.
Is unprecedented.
It was so good. Like,
but see, that's what put Cyberpunk at such a high pedestal.
And that was the
issue. Off of a game like fucking Witcher 3, but Witcher 3 had 3 titles to get it right. You know, to like figure the formula out, and everybody just expects another game to be like, yeah, it's on the same quality, I guess. So.
Yeah, and it was a little bit annoying, but I do think that they, in terms of like the series, they did a good job of fleshing out the characters, because I definitely was more associated with Yin and Triss from the series than Yin and Triss from the game. It was like
Triss at the beginning of 2 is just like, well, she's naked a lot.
Yeah, and it's like the series, I definitely understood what was going on, and I liked that. And it also helps because like the books are kind of dense, and they also don't follow the games very well, or the games don't follow the books very well because
he didn't
want
based.
Yeah.
With the author's input. So very Game of Thrones in the sense that like,
well, also,
yes, this is my work, but I get to dictate whether or not they fuck something up real bad.
Yeah. So it was interesting in that respect. And then like I don't know, I just liked it. Like I liked the series and I liked the game. And I like the books are decent, but I feel like they did a really good job. And they've also got they announced Blood Origin, which is going to be their like prequel elf series. It's got did you see?
Wait, from the author or from?
No, on Netflix. At the end.
Oh, so it's just, okay.
There's an after credits scene on the last episode of this second season of Witcher 2, and it's a trailer for The Witcher Blood Origins, which don't quote me, I think is a prequel to this, and it's all elf characters in the trailer, so I'm guessing it's about the story of the elves.
So what do they call the elves in this? They have like their own faction?
The Scoia'tael is in 2. The Scoia'tael is the one that is like the highway robbers that
they make an appearance in 1 very early on when you're in the town with the drowned. There's a lot of Scoia'tael there. So okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so they're there.
Here's fun fact, just for I never played 3. Really I own 3. I own 3 Enhanced Edition. I've never played it because I wanted to play them in order. I got 75% of the way through Witcher 1 and got stuck and got frustrated because I don't know if it was a mechanic issue or me or what, but I just couldn't beat it. I've only ever gotten to the weird fucking Kraken monster at the first town.
In 2? Yeah, that's a fun fight.
And then I never played 3. So I have a very broken knowledge of the Witcher series.
3 is huge.
But I loved them. They were so fun. I'll have to definitely beat those.
Yeah, 3 is fun. 3 felt like a much more finished game. 2 felt like an interlude between 1 and 3, and 1, like going back and playing it is definitely not viable right now.
It's the exact opposite of Dragon Age, because everyone always rates them as like Inquisition's good, 1 is the best, 2 is what the fuck happened.
I like 2. 2 is a bridge. 2 is you have to look at 2 as a bridge.
It's a narrative tie-in. Like,
and they fixed the Qunari. They didn't make them just look like tall, dark people.
Well,
they were
I think I mentioned this before. There's an official thing that you can download from BioWare's homepage that it's called the Qunari Fix, and it changes Sven in the first game to look like an actual Qunari canonical to the rest of the series. And it updates all the textures for free too. Sorry.
But Witcher 3 it feels like such a polished game. It feels like such a better game, even now, like 5 years after it's released. Like it just is nice. Like I was just sitting there watching The Witcher and going, I want to play The Witcher 3 just so I can go through, because they've got like all these. They've got like storylines, they've got quest lines, they've got expansions, they've got a huge amount of story, but you can just do like a bunch of contracts. Like you can, take the contract to kill this vampire shit, and you gotta, study it, you gotta develop the mutagen, develop the poison, find the coding.
The DLC, are you the Blood and Wine DLC? Or?
Yes, but that's like one of them. But you can just do like, in even just random villages, they have just like, okay, go kill this Leshen. Okay, go kill this basilisk. Okay, go kill this dragon. Like, it's all very fun. Like, I like those tasks that break up the quest line, because you can just like, okay, I'm gonna focus on the main story for a bit. They've also got Gwent in the game, which is really fun to play. Like, they've got a very
now its own standalone.
It is its own standalone game, which I have not played.
And now they have something of Kings.
Thronebreaker.
Yeah, well, there's another like mobile Witcher game
Oh,
now.
I don't know what
So
that
there's the augmented VR game, and then there's another mobile game that takes place in the Witcher universe, but you do not play as a Witcher, you play as a random citizen. Also, there is a faction in the first game that you may know about that I wish that they had fleshed out more, and it's like Flame of the Rose or the Rose of Flame.
Order of the Flaming Rose, or Order of the White Flame.
Because they have the big rose on the armor. You meet a knight who essentially are doing the same thing as Witchers. They're just normal men who take up shields.
Yeah, because that's one of the factions you can side with. There's like three paths in the first game. You can go with those guys. You can go the Witcher route, or you can go the route with the other people. What the fuck? Oh god.
The only reason I like them so much is that in Witcher 1, when you're in front of like one of the first major cities that you get into, there's a huge infestation within the sewers. And as you take a contract in exchange for a place to stay, you're down there fighting stuff. And then one of those guys shows up and they're like, hey, you're a Witcher. Like, you are literally what we look up to. You're like, they're not like, we don't worship you, but like, you are the example that we set for ourselves for the kind of valiancy that we should do against these monsters as our order.
Yeah.
So like he fanboys over Geralt a little bit, but it's super cool because that guy kicks ass. Like he is really good at his job. And I loved it because he's like, it would be an honor if you'd come and like work with us and stuff. And obviously Geralt's like, nah, fuck off. I don't know who you are. But I was like, bro, I like this order. Like they get shit done.
Yeah. And I think that was really cool. They've got the in the series, there's the White Flame, which is like Nilfgaard's whole deal, and that's their emperor, is known as the White Flame.
Nilfgaard.
Yeah, Nipplguard.
Well, I mean, like so it's Nilfgaardians who you're against, isn't it? Because it's
you can be, but like
just remember, because in Witcher 2 you start off in service to the king of insert kingdom
Foltest, Temeria.
With his two bastard children.
That's Foltest.
Yeah.
I
actually liked that king. Personally,
he was cool.
In the 8 seconds that you get to see him.
Yeah, one of those kids is that like. Did you watch the first season of The Witcher?
I watched the first couple episodes.
Foltest is in one of those episodes, and it talks about his kids, which is cool because they're definitely sired from his wife or his sister.
Oh, that's oops.
Yeah, they talk about his kids and like he has to break the curse on them, and that's how he meets Triss for like the first time, because she's the advisor to Foltest. But they do a really good job with all that, I think.
So, let me get your opinion on this since we're talking about it. Who do you think in the show is most similar to the game? Like, because I know that they're not following the game and they're not trying to compare things to the game. But if there was a character that you have met in the show that you could be like, oh, that's
Dandelion.
Similar.
Jaskier is a fucking annoying asshole. He in the game. I remember hating him, and then literally like
in The Witcher 2.
The only thing is like his actor in the Netflix series is a good singer. Like he's a good. I feel like he's well trained and he knows how to sing. Like I like that they did that. But he's just as annoying. Like he's so annoying. And as far as like the continuation of that into the games is spot on. Like, because I remember playing The Witcher 2 and going like, who the fuck is this Dandelion? He's such an idiot. Oh my god, I hate him. I hate having to bail him out all the time. I hate this.
Bard,
that continued into The Witcher 3, and then I watched the series. I was like, oh my god, he's the exact same fucking thing. Like, oh Jesus fucking Christ, this is annoying. But then like as far as like the opposite of that, Ciri is, but see in
the most different.
But see in that you don't ever see Ciri until 3. And by then, she's an adult.
Like 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah, in the series, she's like 12 or 13. But I just
which, again, a lot of fanboys got mad at because, you know, if you put an attractive woman in any sort of media, they sexualize her. And they're like, you can't sexualize a 12-year-old. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was the point. But she's such a little shit. Like, oh my god, she does like the most annoying, unrealistic things just because she's a bratty little kid, especially in the first season. The second season is not so bad.
Well, she was also like royalty, which doesn't make it better.
I know. I just remember going, I'm glad that Ciri wasn't in the video games like this because I would have been so pissed off. Like it was annoying.
Who does she remind me of in the game though? She acts like she's got the English accent. She's like an uppity English rich spoiled girl. But
but she's a badass. She's a badass. Like you get to play as her in the game.
Badass.
You get to play
that way.
Because the whole point of The Witcher 3 is you're hunting Ciri. Like that, you start off trying to find Ciri because the Emperor of Nilfgaard is trying to find her as well because that's his daughter. Spoilers. You, as you progress the story of trying to find her, you get little like backflashes where you play as her, and she's a badass. Like she's got her own powers. She's got like the Witcher skills. She's got the Witcher signs. Like she's pretty cool. I think that overall they made her a good character for just having introduced her, but having technically been in the background for so long. And I enjoyed playing as her for the few snippets that you get to.
I got very excited when she goes to that portal or whatever it is, and she starts describing what she saw, and she's like, there's these lights and there's sounds and there's people and they look like they're wearing armor built into their skin. And people were like, oh my god, Ciri went to Night City in Cyberpunk. Like
that's exactly what happened.
Flash forward, and then everyone's like, that means in Cyberpunk there's a chance to run into Ciri. No, not once, not a single goddamn time. Do you ever once see Ciri? But you find a magazine talking about the video game Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
What a cock block, man.
But yeah, it's a good series. It's a good game. And honestly, like I'm probably going to start another playthrough of it, even though it's been out for.
You should stream it. I would love to watch that stream.
Murph.
Genuinely, I'm serious. I think that'd be another, because you. So like, this is the thing.
So long.
I know. But like the thing is this, like you watch different streamers for different reasons. I enjoy your stream because you look at it differently than people just playing the game. Most people are just like, oh, let me derp around and just. But like you are a story-driven individual. So when you play a narrative, even if it's subconscious, you have a narrative of the character you are playing and the actions they are doing. You don't do shit for the sake of doing it. You do it because that's what my person would do. And I loved watching your Skyrim playthrough because it felt like I was watching something like develop and come to fruition. I wasn't just watching some dude fuck around with a mace for 10 minutes because it's fun to do.
I appreciate that. I think you were the only one who watched my Skyrim stream, so I appreciate that support.
Well, I caught it every chance
Hi, Troy.
I had, but
Troy's back. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I would love to watch you play The Witcher, especially if you started in The Witcher 1, because it would be funny to see you struggle with the mechanics.
Oh my god, that would be horrifying.
You would appreciate it. You genuinely would appreciate the story, because it is so story-rich in the first game. Like, holy shit. Especially, like, with all the choices that you have to make that supposedly spill over into Witcher 2.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Kind of didn't happen, but kind of does happen.
It kind of does. Like you can reload saves and shit, which is I guess.
But
fine.
the other side of that though is that if we're talking about games that have cross saves, I would absolutely pay you to play Dragon Age 1 and let me watch.
Oh, I love Dragon Age. I at least every other year restart Inquisition and never finish it because I am horrible at finishing things.
Tell you, like, thought I beat Dragon Age Inquisition and then found out I was only 70%.
Yeah. I do remember that. You also turned into a robot there, and your quality has gone down significantly. Hello?
Is it still bad?
No, it's fine now. You're just a little bit blurry.
Okay, yeah. I've had some internet spikes recently. They're doing they're doing pole work nearby, and they've had to, like, dig, and I'm fiber, so that's... I got through Inquisition to like a certain point, and it was at the point where the Inquisition was in front of the council to decide whether or not they're disbanding it. And I'm like, okay, so this is like the Mass Effect mission where like all the group, hey Troy, it's like where they get all together, and you're supposed to think that like this is the end of the time, like you're all gonna have those like this is for the fans of the game. Here's what you're doing. No, and they're like, oh, assassination attempt. There's
I know. I agree completely, 100%. What are you talking about?
Thanks, Troy.
Troy gives his seal of approval. I don't what he did not know what you were talking about.
Yeah,
but I support you.
Fine. You had fun.
He says he hoped you had fun. He says he did. You weren't gone very long. Anyway, well, Troy's...
they were tools.
Yeah, that's what it was. They sucked, didn't they? They were the worst.
They sucked. And not in the way anybody wants.
Anywho.
But no, I'm serious, though. Last note on that. I would love to watch you either play Dragon Age or The Witcher. I would watch, personally.
Yeah. I think we're going to call it there because we've hit an hour, and I've got to cook dinner for Troy because he's helpless.
Okay, that works though.
No.
But yeah, I mean, this was kind of let's do it again.
You turn into a robot again, Murph, and it sounded so.
We'll talk.
Sorry, Murph. I didn't hear anything.
It's okay.
I will.
Okay.
I will see you later. Thank you for your time, Murph. I've been John. That's been Murph. This has been What's in the Dungeon. Tune in next week to discover the answer to the biggest